300 men against thousands. No swords raised at first, just faith. And then chaos broke loose. The night was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that presses against your chest. The kind that makes every heartbeat sound louder than it should. 300 men stood on the edge of the valley. Below them, an army. Endless. Their enemies stretched across the land like a dark ocean, tents packed tightly together, camels shifting, soldiers moving in restless waves. The Midianites, the Amalekites, warriors hardened by conquest. And above them, on the hill, stood Gideon. Once a man who hid in fear, now a man standing between obedience and impossible odds. 300 men. That was all he had left, because God had taken the rest away. First, 22,000 had gone home, afraid. Then 10,000 remained, but God said it was still too many to win, because if Israel won with numbers, they would forget who gave them victory. So God reduced them again, until only 300 remained. Not the strongest, not the most skilled, just chosen. And now, it was time. But there was something strange. No swords were drawn, no shields raised. Instead, each man held 3 things: a trumpet, a clay jar, and a torch hidden inside. This wasn't how wars were fought. This wasn't strategy. This was madness. And yet, this was the plan. Earlier that night, fear had crept back into Gideon's heart. Even now, standing here, it hadn't fully left him. But God had given him one last reassurance. Go down to the enemy camp and listen. So Gideon went, quietly, carefully, into the darkness. And there he heard it. 2 enemy soldiers talking. One spoke, his voice trembling. I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the camp. It struck the tent, and everything collapsed. The other replied without hesitation, This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon. God has given the Midianites into his hands. Gideon froze. A dream in the enemy's camp, speaking his name. Not as a weak man, not as someone hiding, but as a threat, as a force, as a deliverer. In that moment, something shifted inside him. Fear gave way to faith. He bowed right there in the darkness and worshipped. Then he returned. And now, here he stood, looking down at the valley, at an army that could crush them in seconds. 300 men behind him, waiting, watching, trusting. The signal came. Gideon raised his trumpet. His voice broke through the silence, sharp, sudden, commanding. Watch me, do exactly as I do. The men tightened their grip on the jars. Torches flickered faintly inside. The enemy below, unaware, unprepared, sleeping. And then, a sound shattered the night, a trumpet blast, then another and another. 300 trumpets exploded at once, echoing across the valley like thunder. The ground itself seemed to tremble. Before the sound could fade, crash! Clay jars shattered, pieces fell like rain. And suddenly, fire. 300 flames burst into the darkness, surrounding the enemy camp from every side. Light where there should have been none, noise where there had been silence, and then the shout. The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. It echoed, again, again, again. The valley erupted. Men woke in panic, eyes wide, hearts racing, because what they saw didn't make sense. Lights everywhere, trumpets blaring, voices shouting from every direction. To them, it looked like an entire army had surrounded them. Thousands, no, tens of thousands. Fear spread faster than fire. Confusion twisted their thoughts. Commands were shouted, but no one listened. And then chaos broke loose. Swords were drawn, but not against Gideon's men, against each other. In the darkness, in the panic, they couldn't tell friend from enemy. Blades clashed, cries filled the air, men ran blindly, striking anything that moved. The mighty army collapsed from within, all while Gideon's 300 stood, watching, not charging, not fighting, just witnessing. Because this battle was never theirs, it was God's. The enemy fled, running for their lives. The valley that once looked unstoppable was now broken, defeated, scattered. And Gideon, the man who once hid in fear, stood in victory. Not because he became strong, but because he trusted the one who is. But the story doesn't end there, because victory brings attention, and attention brings pressure. The men of Israel came rushing back, the same ones who had left, the same ones who had doubted. Now they wanted to be part of the victory. They pursued the fleeing enemy, they captured their leaders, they claimed the win. And soon they turned to Gideon, their voices filled with excitement, with expectation. "Rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson." A kingdom, power, legacy, everything a man could want, everything Gideon never had. The moment hung in the air. This was another test, not of fear, but of pride. Gideon looked at them, at their faces filled with hope, filled with admiration, and he answered, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son. The Lord will rule over you." For a moment, it was perfect, humble, right, aligned. But even victories can carry hidden dangers, because Gideon made a request. "Give me the gold from the plunder." Earrings, treasure, spoils of war. They gave it freely, piles of gold growing before him. And from it, Gideon made something, an ephod, a sacred object, something meant to represent God's presence. But something went wrong. The people began to look at it, not as a symbol, but as an idol. They gave it attention, honor, focus that belonged to God alone. And slowly, quietly, the same man who tore down idols created one. The victory was real, the miracle undeniable, but the ending complicated. Because Gideon's story isn't just about triumph, it's about the tension between faith and fear, obedience and distraction, calling and compromise. He was chosen, he was used, he was victorious, but he was still human. And maybe that's the point. Because if God could use a man like Gideon, a man who doubted, a man who questioned, a man who needed sign after sign, then maybe he can use you too. Even in your fear, even in your uncertainty, even when the odds don't make sense.
Because God doesn't need numbers. He doesn't need perfection. He doesn't need strength. He just needs yes. So when the moment comes, when you're standing on the edge, looking down at something impossible, remember the night when 300 men stood against thousands. No swords raised at first, just faith. And everything changed. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that God still works through the unlikely, then subscribe and be part of a journey where faith comes alive, one story at a time.